Welcome back to the Pleb Underground. I am your host, Phil. That's right, guys. Signal without the slop. Let's dive into it. What do we got today? Okay, so first up, got Peter Thiel, right? The Peter Thiel Panopticon is building out. He's got an IPO today, right? Bullish. It's going to be an exchange. I know you're thinking, what does this have to do with Bitcoin? Just bear with me. It's got nothing to do with actual Bitcoin. It's kind of feeling a lot like the last cycle. So, I just wanted to discuss about the unfortunate thing that happened to Signature Bank and SVB Bank, mostly due to one of Peter Thiel's moves. And all of a sudden, he's here this cycle replacing those institutions with his own, where he has much more of an influence. I'm sure that this was totally organic. Anyways, Tom Lee, right? Tom Lee's been in the news, shilling his ETH bags. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting, though, because when we take a look at his post, there's some discrepancy, right? There's a bit of a discrepancy between, essentially between the graphics that he's using and the product that he's shilling. And we're going to take a look at that as well. Right? Metaplanet is offering their first preferred shares, right? Where essentially you're going to be earning a quote unquote yield on holding those shares. Now, you might be wondering, you're like, oh, more paper Bitcoin summer, Phil. Guys, the drama in Bitcoin tech, so to speak, right, has kind of just died on the vine when it comes to knots and core and people wanting to activate CTV. Okay, so it's like, it's almost like we're at a standstill. Either way, I digress. I'm going to be at TabConf in October, and maybe that's gonna spark some life for me, and I'll be renewed looking at the tech. But as of right now, I feel like it's stale, and knots versus core drama is all we've got. So you're either virtue signaling that you run a firewall, or you're an evil person that is destroying Bitcoin because you won't change your Bitcoin core. You won't change your Bitcoin client implementation. Anyways, what else do we got? And some serious bullishness, guys. Kazakhstan. It's Kazakhstan. Anyways, Kazakhstan making some moves. Why is that important? We're going to take a look. All right, guys. Big stories on the way. You know the deal. First, going to show some love to the Pleb Underground sponsor. Going to be right back in 20 seconds to dive into all of the drama and the stories. Here we go. Pleb Underground is sponsored by Archimedes Emporium. Discover the pinnacle of precision engineering, starting with their Bitcoin logo wall clock, meticulously machined in Maine from a solid block of aerospace-grade aluminum, ensuring unparalleled durability and performance. Experience the difference of a product made without compromise. Head on over to Archimedes Emporium. Okay, so Metasplat, right? So they gave their earnings. I think it was yesterday or this morning. Anyways, net assets tripled, up 299%. And now it's planning its Bitcoin powered preferred stocks, which obviously is following in the footsteps of MicroStrategy. And there we go. Metaplanet is introducing the Bitcoin-backed preferred shares that blend fixed income and equity features backed by BTC reserves. Unsurprising, right? Unsurprising that Metaplanet is following along on the MicroStrategy playbook. I mean, look, I have a hard time with this stuff. And of course, guys, not that I have to tell you that this isn't investment advice and make your own decisions and blah, 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 all that, all of that red tape, right? That essentially absolves me of saying anything and you of all your responsibility. But look, they're a tiny company, right? How many hotels do they own at this point? I think it's like two or three. Anyways, for me, it's all risk. It's all risk. I do appreciate, right? I do appreciate seeing the news. I appreciate these companies attempting to use Bitcoin in this way, because this is always what we were going to end up seeing. We were always going to end up seeing the traditional financial system shoehorn Bitcoin in any way they can. I've said this several times before. I'm pretty sure I'll never stop saying it because the legacy system is going to do exactly what it's compelled to do, right? So, hey, these guys are going to capitalize off Bitcoin, and, you know, we'll see where that goes. Personally, though, I just watch this stuff. I just watch this for signal, right? In my eyes, the fact that they're coming out with this product right now, this indicates to me that the market, I know there's like a bunch of people saying, oh yeah, you know, we've topped, that's it, you know, and then you've got some TradFi bros that are like, that were, you know, a month ago, we're saying, hey, we're never going to see Bitcoin above 112K again. And yet here we are, right? In my eyes, the bull run is not over. In my eyes, the type of activity that we are seeing right now, this is the type of activity that brings more activity in. So in my eyes, we're still just sitting in the building phase. I know some people are saying like, oh, we've got 6 months left. Other people are saying, oh, the 4-year cycle's over. That's it. We're going to do the same thing as gold. Here comes an 8-year bull run. I don't know any of that. Okay. I don't know any of that. What I do is I try to gauge market sentiment by seeing the types of behavior that these businesses are doing, right? What are these moves that these businesses are doing? Are they winding things down and getting ready, or are they stepping up because they're preparing for more volume to come in? And to me, this is behavior of we're getting ready for more volume to come in. Okay. All right. Done with that. Let's move on. Let's move on to, let's talk about Peter Thiel. Let's talk about specifically his, right, everybody knows, right? He's a big investor in Palantir, and he's got his partner, that's the CEO, John Longsdale, right? He's the co-founder of Palantir, right? The giant Panopticon that supposedly is going to ruin all of our lives. He back. Let's do it. I didn't say that because, anyways, Peter Thiel backed bullish targets up to 4.82 billion valuation and upsized IPO. That's right, guys. So this company is going to start. It's going to start trading today. Again, right? This is where it gets weird. So let's remember. Let's go back in time. Okay, last cycle. Peter Thiel's investment company. I completely forget what they were called. They pulled over $40 billion out of Signature Bank or SVB. I don't remember which one it was, but essentially it was that move that began the trickle effect that all of a sudden started a whole bunch of chaos where a bunch of other customers started pulling their money out of these institutions. Okay. I just want people to think about that, right? So it's almost like, and again, this is just my tinfoil hat take. It's almost like he saw what these guys were going to be able to build. I'm talking about SVG Bank and Signature Bank. He saw what they were going to do. And he was like, well, you know, I've got a little piece of this, but I want the whole thing. I want it all. So in my eyes, I believe that he orchestrated that panic from last cycle in order to position and prepare himself for this. Right? So now let's pay attention. So now he's got this bullish exchange that's going to be coming out, right? That this is an exchange for Bitcoin and crypto. Okay, let's follow along. Next, right? So this was back in July. Peter Thiel and other billionaires are planning Erebor, which I did report on this. Right? And what is Erebor doing? Well, they're a new bank that's going to fill the void by Silicon Valley Bank's collapse. Okay? So there you go. He comes in, sets up the bank. Now, all of a sudden, IPO for the exchange. I mean, do we really think that this doesn't become the Panopticon that he's dreaming of? I think it does. Oh, hold on a second. There we go. Hey, Bitcoin Shango. I pull up the comments sometimes. Yeah, I agree. Thiel, Novogratz, it plucks my emotional nose hairs. Anybody who's ever plucked nose hairs knows how terrible that is. You'll just start crying and you don't even know why. That people are still listening to either of them. It's brutal, man. It's so sad how people will listen to other people just because they perceive that they're more powerful than they are, or they're impressed by the amount of wealth and perceived power that they have. Yeah, it's just It's such garbage. Anyways. Okay, let's see here. What else do we got out of the Peter Thiel stuff? Yeah, no, this is just, essentially, this is just Peter Thiel, Palmer Luckey, and John just explaining that they filed for that bank charter for Erebor. Okay, anyways, whatever. Guys, I can't help but think that's the Panopticon coming into view. I don't see how we can't see that coming, right? It's like you've got Palantir, you've got these exchanges, you've got this bank that's going to fund crypto. I'm not saying that Palantir has anything to do with those things, but you zoom out, right? Zoom out and just take a look. It's getting scary out there. It's getting scary. And if we think that power isn't consolidating, if you ask me, Silicon Valley power is not only consolidating, but they're thriving. Anyways, all right, moving on. So, a lot of talk about Tom Lee, right? We're seeing a lot of Tom Lee stuff, right? He's always in the news. He's talking up his bags. He's buying a whole bunch of ETH, but you see, it's interesting because when you take a look at some of these news releases, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird, right? So he's buying all this ETH and he's shilling all this ETH, but take a look. It's all about Bitcoin. Why? Why is he doing this? Right? It's no surprise. This is a typical tactic of affinity scammers, affinity grifters. Okay, so Bitcoin is the thing, right? Bitcoin is the asset. Bitcoin is the network. Bitcoin is the most desirable asset. Okay, so far in human history. Maybe there's other people who have a different opinion. That's my opinion. So he is buying something and holding something that is pure garbage, right? ETH was 70% pre-mined. The majority of the ETH nodes are being run by Amazon Web Services. There's no hard cap, right? There was the hard fork, the DAO hard fork in 2016 or 2017, right? Which went from which essentially went from Ethereum Classic to ETH as we know it now. And then when that type of drama didn't work, they ended up coming up with Vitalik made this ridiculous roadmap that I made fun of, the merge, splurge, and the purge and all this crap. And right, they're going to go to proof of stake, and this is going to save ETH, and it didn't work. Okay, so clearly this thing is not as good as Bitcoin. And Tom, I don't know if Tom really knows that, right? I don't know if he really cares, right? It doesn't even matter. But I do know that he understands, or at least believes that he understands, what people want to see. So that's why I think a lot of the marketing is constantly showing Bitcoin while he's shilling shitcoins. Now, if you think like you're like, oh well, Phil, you're kind of being a little tough on this guy and this and that. He loves Bitcoin. Okay, well, guess what? The great thing about Bitcoiners, we like to go do some digging and let's go back in time. Go back in time. Shout out to Hodlanaut, Space Cat. Here's a post from him back from 2023. Tom Lee, Funstrat, the guy who helped shill BSV years after Craig started suing me, and everyone knew what was up. So for the people that think that guys like Tom Lee are, freaking Signal or something like that, make no mistake, these guys are they're just grifters. They're looking after their bottom line, okay? He was at a CoinGeek conference, and he had no problem sitting there shilling an absolute affinity scam right next to the biggest fraud in this space. Biggest fraud, guys. And someone's going to take this guy seriously? What? I don't think so. Jimmy Nguyen, right? He was the lawyer. He was the lawyer that quickly disappeared, right? He was all gung-ho about BSV. Boom, he's thanking Tom Lee also, right? Everybody's thrilled about Tom Lee over there shilling BSV. So yeah, okay, just right, exactly. Stacking Bitcoin show, right? Now we start to recognize that guy. We start to remember, because I knew, I was like thinking, I've seen this guy before. I remember him from Funstrat, but like, why is it sticking out so much? You know, and that's exactly it. You know, we kind of forget a lot of the BSV drama. ACP Stan Lee. Stan Lee is coming up. Okay, we're getting him in there. We're gonna get Stan Lee his own token. Okay, all right. Here, let's move on. All right, next big news. We've got Kazakhstan. That's right, guys. So, why do we care? Right? Kazakhstan is going to have their first Bitcoin ETF, right? I mean, that's pretty cool stuff. So, Astana-based Fonte Capital said that the Fonte Bitcoin Exchange Traded Fund, OEIC BETF, will start trading August 13th. That's very cool stuff. Now, why do we care, right? Why do we care about Kazakhstan doing this? We care because I've got too many images and now I can't share the next one. That's why we care. Okay, sorry, guys. Don't worry, I'm going to get better at this stuff. I do this every day, so eventually it'll all just get better. And yes, exactly. We care because of Borat. Nice. So look, the fund is regulated by the Astana International Financial Center, AIFC, a jurisdiction that its backers say can shield assets from freezes linked to international sanctions while avoiding dependence on foreign issuers. This kind of sounds good. You know, this kind of sounds like, again, I'm not a cheerleader for it. It is an ETF. It is, let's be honest, paper Bitcoin. However, I do appreciate these types of, these types of rules in these types of jurisdictions. Anyways, why does this matter? In my eyes, why this matters is last cycle, okay, people may remember the China mining ban, right? And that is what essentially took out our second top. Okay, so we went up the, our first top, my bad. I'm getting things all confused with FTX. So we were on our way up. We're at like 69K. Everyone's like, that's it, 100K. It's around the corner. We're on our way. And China mining ban. Okay, and this was a really nasty one, right? It was like you could see the hash rate just dropped. Okay, if you go take a look at the Bitcoin hash rate chart, you can see it. It's a massive decline in there. Is like pretty much 50%. Now, a couple months later, where did those miners end up, right? Where did those Bitcoin miners end up? In Kazakhstan. And they were up and running before you knew it. So, and there was nothing that could be done, right? Kazakhstan just, it was like business as usual. They had no issues whatsoever. So for me, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, you know what? Good for them that they're getting an ETF and good for them that they're doing it in Kazakhstan. I mean, look, this is the kind of stuff that we want to see. You know, like it doesn't mean necessarily like, obviously, like I'm not cheering for some government or whatever, but guys, this is all part of adoption, right? We're going to see this type of stuff. We're going to see products we agree with. We're going to see products we don't agree with. All of this is happening. Some of it's going to work. Some of it won't. But we get to watch the show as long as you keep your Bitcoin in self-custody. And yes, if you're verifying your own transactions, run a node. Okay, run your own node. I see people making fun that they're not going to run a node. Telling you, nobody wants to be that person that finds out their Bitcoin goes missing because they left it on an exchange. Okay, if you are using Bitcoin, you're doing your own transactions, you should be running your own node. That is the whole point of running a node. You're not helping the network. You're doing it for your own self-sovereignty and so that you can verify your own transactions. Anyways, I don't even know where that came from. I don't remember. All I know is got some bullish stuff going on. But at the same time, we've got the Panopticon growing out, and we've got Tom Lee, who's going to wreck a whole bunch of noobs with his ETH garbage. Supposedly, he's gonna try to buy up to like, they're going to try to issue up to like $20 billion worth of shares so they can buy ETH. Guys, get ready, okay? I've got the popcorn out. We are going to see some absolutely epic collapses that are going to happen this cycle. It is going to be fantastic. It's going to do it for us, though, guys, for today. And I will catch you all tomorrow. Thanks for stopping by. Peace.